Welcome everybody. Have you found yourself maybe trapped by the should storm, where basically you're living under that heavy list of the maybe internal and external, like the shoulds, you know, that are telling you like you should be more productive, or you should be a better parent, or you should be further along, like, you know, that invisible checklist that's just exhausting to constantly have there. Or maybe you're stuck between that feeling of like desire and duty, where you're constantly saying yes to everything and everyone, while your own needs, your own authentic gifts and superpowers are ignored, you know, which honestly is going to drain your joy and replace meaningful contribution with endless people pleasing. Now, if that hits home for you, then this is going to be a video you don't want to miss out on. We're going to be talking about how you can like stop shoulding all over yourself, right? Just stop it. You know, this is how you break free from the pressure of trying to be everything to everyone. And that shows up in many different ways for parents, entrepreneurs, people who are working away in their 9-to-5s, you know, like corporate job or whatever that may look like. I mean, I know personally what it showed up for me was I was saying yes all the time because I thought it made me feel kind, it made me feel dependable. But really, it was just like me trying to earn worth for people. Like, I was stuck in this, like, the should storm, like living under all those invisible checklists of who I thought I was supposed to be. Hey, I should volunteer for that committee. I should be more productive. I should be further along by now. I should never disappoint people. I should be a better parent, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on. Like that, if that sounds familiar, then once again, it's because I've walked a similar path to you. I'm a parent of 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I've lived in that sea of cubicles in a corporate environment before. And so what I'm talking about, I know is applicable to you because I've walked that same path as you. You know, I know personally, like I was draining myself dry trying to meet those expectations that no one else had ever handed to me. I had that voice inside my head, like it just kept, you know, I was giving from guilt and depletion, thinking like I could, you know, if I just check all the boxes, if I get everything done, like I could finally feel enough. But that kind of giving, it will never fill you up. It empties you. It is completely exhausting. It's where you're putting on like a performance mode. And what hits a lot of people really hard, I know it hit me probably the hardest, was the exhaustion wasn't a physical exhaustion. The overwhelm, the frustration, the anxiety, the stress, it has nothing to do with any of those physical external things. It was realizing that I personally I was just performing like what I thought or who I thought I was supposed to be instead of actually who I am, and giving from the place of my natural gifts and superpowers. Like I believed that if I stopped saying yes to everything, people would stop valuing me. That, you know, that sort of a should thinking was responsible, right? You know, that it made me a good person, but that's not the case. Because once again, if you're doing that, you're putting your gifts, your superpowers, your experiences, all things you have in you on the back burner to please everybody else. And there are people out there waiting for you to step into this more authentic version of you because you're the only person who can make an impact in their lives. Now, I like to say this at the top of the video, totally forgot to. So if you're new here, welcome to the Giver Method channel. You know, my name is Jake, so glad you're able to join us. If you're back for another video, welcome back. I like to tee up the topic. We're going to cover what this thing is, and I'm going to invite you to stick around a little bit longer so that we can dive into 4 specific areas, very like deep dive into some principles that you can start putting into motion today. All right, so I invite you to stick around for the whole video, but at the same time, if you can only listen for the next few minutes and take in like the core concepts, then you're welcome to do that as well. Make sure that you like the video, comment anything along the way if you do decide to leave a little early. Now, the truth is, like, most of the shoulds, you know, I know mine, like most of them are ghosts that are just there. They're the expectations that are imagined. We imagine others have for us that don't actually exist. I know when I started asking myself, like, who actually expected this of me? Usually the answer was only me. Like, I'd been living by rules that were never mine. Like, they're just rules that were handed down from, I don't know, family or culture or comparison. And that realization, for me, it changed a lot of things. You know, hopefully it changes things for you. We want to start replacing the shoulds with coulds. We want to, you know, instead of I should call that person, it's like, hey, I'm choosing to call them because that connection matters. Like, and when I couldn't finish that sentence with a real aligned value, like I just didn't do it. You know, I began saying no to things like, you know, in clean, kind, and, you know, no explanation no's to people. And I discovered these amazing boundaries that I just needed for myself. And here's the thing, there's tons of data, science, and research that backs this up. Any sort of obligation-based giving, it will drain energy. It builds more resentment, while like the intention-based giving, you know, creates fulfillment. You're still showing up for people, but it's because you're choosing to. You're setting the intentionality behind that. The invisible shoulds are the ones that are quietly stealing your joy. They're burying your gifts. They're making you feel that burnout, stress, overwhelm, or maybe like people are taking advantage of you. So let's talk about, like, we're going to talk about how you just stop shoulding all over yourself at this point. And once again, no, it's not about being selfish or dropping any sort of responsibilities, because I know you're, as a parent, entrepreneur, someone working away, you can't just burn everything down and start from scratch. You can't just go move to the woods to go find yourself, right? This is about realizing that giving from obligation, like, it's going to suppress your gifts, while if you do this with intentionality, it activates them. Like, you give best when you give from overflow, not from a deficit. So everything we're going to talk about today is designed for people who are stuck in that should storm. If you're there, this is for you. People who are tired of people pleasing, running on guilt, and ready to reclaim energy and give themselves purpose, purpose that they could find joy and fulfillment in. So we're going to dive deep into that. Like I said, my name is Jake. I'm Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The GIVER Method. Everything we're talking about today is grounded in principles directly from The GIVER Method. I highly recommend you go get yourself a copy. I'll put a link in the description so you can go get on Amazon, because right now it's on sale for between $2 to $10 based off of which version you buy. So get yourself a copy. It will change your life. Maybe there's someone in your life that needs a copy. Everything we're covering today is grounded in the principles in here, and everything I wrote in here, the stories, the action items, exercise, everything, the worksheets, like, they're all geared towards people like you and me. I want to be your guide on that path, because as a parent, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's been in that sea of cubicles, like, I know what it's like, and I know that you need to be able to do these things in the life that you're already living, not in when you have more time. No, let's do them today. Let's start getting those things in motion now. Like, here's the thing, like, I know for me, when I stopped chasing the shoulds and started aligning my time with my values, things changed. Like, I wasn't giving less, I was actually giving better, and my gifts, they had more space to breathe. Once again, if that resonates with you, go get yourself a copy of The GIVER Method, or maybe someone else. It's on Amazon. Pause the video, go Amazon, look up The GIVER Method by Jake Talbert, or use the link in the description. You can go to thegivermethod.com. We've got all sorts of free resources, like Are You Surviving or Thriving assessment. We've got our newsletter. We've got all sorts of ways that we can work together and sort of things like that. Go follow us on all the different social medias, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, under the handle The GIVER Method, so you don't miss out on any of the other things that we release throughout the week. The GIVER Method, like, it's the framework that helps you reclaim energy and break free from any sort of obligation-based living using your gifts and superpowers. Now, if that's something that interests you and you're like, yeah, but I want some personal guidance, I need someone, I need a guide who's walked the similar path to me, then check out the one-on-one coaching link we have down below. We have a couple spots open. Could make sense for us to jump on a call and discuss what that would look like. And then if you lead a team, you have a podcast, event, a stage, whatever, a community, that this message would resonate with them, then let's talk about how we could bring it to them. There's a link about speaking and podcasting below. And of course, hit subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things, tap the bell for notifications, like the video, and comment anything that lands for you. Now, this is where I'm going to invite you to stick around, because we're going to dive deep into these 4 principles that really unpack what you could go do to start making changes in your life. So let's jump in. Like I said, I love referring to it as, like, you just need to stop shoulding all over yourself, okay? Shoulding all over yourself. So the first principle area that I want to focus on is, like, how to catch those ghost obligations that are stealing your energy, the ones I was talking about. So we're going to do, the idea is called a should audit, because this is like, it is going to hit home for almost everybody. If you're watching at this point still, this should hit home for you. Most of us carry around those invisible expectations that no one actually asked of us. Those are those ghost obligations, the shoulds that only exist in our head. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that, like, I should be more patient. I should say yes to the committee. I should, post more online. I should be further along. I should do this or that. Like, you've just been running them for so long that they feel like they're truth. They're in that constant reprogramming of things that you just regurgitate day after day. A should audit helps you to separate what's real from what's borrowed. What actually matters versus what's been handed to you from your family, your culture, your comparison, whatever. Like, once you can see these shoulds as what they are, these ghosts that are hiding behind you, you can stop letting them, like, rent space in your head and start living where energy really counts. And so let's talk about how you can go do that. So the first thing I'd want you to do is you're going to do, like, a full, like, should, like, download. Maybe grab a blank piece of paper, open up Note app, whatever, and at the top you're going to write, like, every should of, like, I should have done this, that you thought in the last, let's say, 48 hours. And brain dump without editing or judging or anything along those lines. Like, I should be more productive. I should eat better. I should say yes to that invite. I should keep my house spotless. I should be further in my career. I should. And don't just list the obvious ones. Get them all out there, subtle ones. Like, I should be grateful. I should have figured this out by now. Whatever. Like, you'll probably end up with, like, 20 to 40. And that's not a failure. That's an awareness. So many people come up with such a big list when they start thinking through it. Now, as you have that list, what I want you to do is next you're going to label each one. And so you're going to mark it with either an E or an I. So the E is going to be that it is an external expectation, which means that it comes from outside of you. It comes from your family, your culture, workspace, your comparison mode, how you were raised, things like that. The I is for its internal alignment. It genuinely comes from your own values. And what you have to do here is you have to be like ruthlessly honest. Like most people discover that 70 to 80% of the shoulds are just external expectations that they've internalized on their own. Examples could be like, I should volunteer for every school committee. Well, gosh, that's an E, that's school conditioning. Like, I should read to my kids before bed. Well, yeah, that's love and connection, right? That's an I. That is perfect, because you're going for the love and connection. Those are things you value. I should stay late to prove my commitment. Well, that's an E. Like, that's a workplace guilt. Mark each one. Look for the patterns. How many expectations are you carrying that came from outside? And then you're going to ask yourself a really big question. For every one of them that you put an E next to, you're going to write next to it, who actually expects this of me? And be very specific with the person or the entity, and then sit with it and question it honestly. Most people discover like shocking answers. And here's where it gets real. Most people discover that the answer is honestly only me. I'm the person that set that expectation, not my spouse, not my parents, not my work or my community. Like, I did. I set that. I should volunteer for every committee. Who expects this of me? The school? No. They're just asking. Other parents? No, they're busy too. My mom? No, that's not even her business. Like, it's only me. I think that's what good parents should do. Should I post on daily on social media? Who expect this of me? Do my clients? No, they hired me not for their work, not for my posts. Other entrepreneurs? Nope, they're just doing their thing. Like, this is only me. I saw someone say it was essential, and I internalized it as an obligation. I should stay late to prove myself. Well, who expects that of you? My boss? Well, she actually never said that. My colleagues? Well, no, they leave on time. Only me. I'm trying to earn my worth through performance. Write the answers next to each of the expectations. Like what was that external expectation? And notice how many of them are the ghost expectations that are only me. They don't exist outside of your own head. And then you're going to rewrite the ones that matter. So if there is an I, like for the items that line up with your values, we're going to do an exercise, and this is going to dive deeper. We're going to dive really deep into this in the next principle. Okay, so just bear with me. We're going to cover it real quick. You're going to flip your language a little bit. You're going to be like, I choose to, whatever the thing is, the action, the thing that you believe you're supposed to be doing, because of blank value. I should work out becomes like, hey, I choose to move my body because feeling strong helps me show up better. It's not I should call my friend. It's I choose to reach out because connection matters to me. And if you notice the difference, like, it's the same action, but it brings a totally different energy when you set the intention. Like I said, we'll dive deep in this. We'll do a whole exercise around this in the next principle. And then, honestly, this is where you can start seeing where your energy is going. If you look at this list of how many shoulds turned out to be ghosts, like expectations no one ever wanted, like, I've been spending whatever percent of my energy, I've been spending 40%, 50, 60% of my energy on obligations that only exist in my head. That energy belongs, like, to my real values and my gifts and where I could be showing up for people. And you may need to review it once a week. Until you find ways to move past those ghosts that are there, Let's turn those shoulds into choices and make them intentional and reclaim your time and your peace one bit by bit at a time. Because you can't release what you can't name. You have to name it. The should audit shines light on those invisible rules that maybe you only put for yourself. It doesn't just make you feel lighter. It gives you back energy to live with intention instead of obligation. That's alignment. And so I already told you what the second principle is. Like we discussed it a moment ago. But this is how you stop running the obligation mode and start moving from intention. This is that flip from the should to choose. Because I want to dive deeper into the concept. Every time we say I should, we're handing the steering wheel over to someone else. There's this invisible scoreboard we think we're following. When we say like I choose, we take that stuff back. And it's not just like, it's not wordplay. It's truthfully, it's identity. Should keeps you reactive. Choose reconnects you to your value and puts you back in charge. It puts you back in the driver's seat. And so this practice is simple and it's so insanely effective. You catch the should, you hit pause and be like, man, do I actually choose this? And if yes, connect it to the value. If no, Like release it, renegotiate it, set some sort of a boundary. It's the same life, just different energy. So like I said, the first thing, we got to catch it. So for the next couple weeks, notice the shoulds. I should, like, and out loud or in your head, like in every task list that you go through. I should answer right now. I should stay late. I should be more patient. Like whatever, jot them down. Gonna be shocked how many start to appear as you start tracking it over time. Most people, it's like you realize you're doing probably 20 to 30 should things or that you're thinking that thought like 20 to 30 times per day. That's a constant reactive obligation mode. So now we want to ask the choice question. And when we catch it, okay, hold on. Do I choose to do this? Not should I do this? Is this the right thing? Do I choose this? Big difference. The question puts you in the driver's seat and honest, you need to answer as honestly as you can. If you're like, did I choose this? If it's no, then okay, well, does it need to be released? Do I need to get rid of it? Does it need to be renegotiated with whoever? Does it need to be declined, or do I need to set a boundary? Who do I need to talk to? What boundary belongs here to protect me from this? If it's yes, now let's go reframe it, because most people discover that maybe 40% of the shoulds are the things that they don't actually choose, when they're forced to answer honestly. And now we're going to reframe a lot of those things. So every should where the honest answer is yes, okay, then that's the immediate reframe that you want to do. So you're rewiring and reprogramming your brain to think this way is I choose to blank because of the value it serves, the way it serves. A parent could say I choose to read to my kids because of the value, because I value the connection, not the perfection of the thing. Entrepreneurs hey, I choose to attend that event because I value genuine relationships, not just the random visibility. An employee hey, I choose to finish this report because I value follow through and trust. And if you notice what happens, the same action, completely different energy comes to it. And then there's this and also for the non-negotiable. Some things aren't joy sparking, but they still yours to do. Like I said, I understand you can't just burn everything down. You can't just get rid of everything. Sometimes you catch the shoulds and you realize I don't choose this, but I have to do it anyways, like paying my taxes or meeting some sort of contractual obligations. And so with these, you can use this and also reframe hey, I don't love this task. And also I choose to handle it with integrity because I value the responsibility of it. Once again, you're not pretending everything is joyful by choice. You're just acknowledging the reality of what it is and then claim your energy over how you're responding to it. Now, if you do that, if you track that over 14 days, let's say 7 days even, a week to 2 weeks, if you track your shoulds and how you catch them and reframe them, if you start to track that on a sheet where it's okay, what was the original should statement? And then another column, you could be did I choose that? Yes or no? And then the third would be how do I reframe it either to, value or connection, choice, or is this something that needs to be released or renegotiated? Once again, after 7 days, you're catching these things so much faster. By 14 days, you're going to feel less resentment, more agency, more fulfillment, joy, and energy. Once again, and it's not about perfection. It's just about building the muscle of conscious choice, not over the obligation. Language sets your posture. Our language impacts us so much. The shoulds drain you right from the start. I choose to fuels you with purpose. It makes such a massive difference. When you replace the should with choose, we're voting, right? Over and over for ourselves, for us to act from our values, our gifts, our superpowers, and create more of an overflow. It leads to the life of purpose. Those compound over time. That's going to quiet the should storm that you've been experiencing. And that takes us to the third area. This is how you're going to build the boundaries around things without guilt and protecting your energy. So this is called the no practice. Okay? It's so simple. Because most of us were taught how to say, we were never taught how to say no without any sort of a guilt. We're taught that, saying no makes it selfish. You're declining the request means you're not letting people down. You're not co-creating, or you over-explain, you over-apologize, you over-commit until you're running on fumes. And the truth is, boundaries, they don't damage relationships. They actually protect them. You can't give from your best if you're burned out. So the no practice is this 1 week experiment to help you start to build some boundaries, build that boundary muscle up a little bit. And you're going to do it really, with just one small and guilt-free no at a time. You're not trying to become some cold, heartless person or anything who says no to everything. You're proving to yourself that the world doesn't collapse when you protect your energy. And so here's what I want you to do as a part of this. The first thing, you practice one small no a day for 7 days. That's your only job, is to say no once a day. No, with no explanation, no apology. Just start easy and level up. Maybe it's you first day or two, you're going to decline something tiny. You're going to ignore a spam invite or skip a group chat. Maybe day 3, 4, you say no to like a small request, from someone you trust. By, day 5, 6, you'll try it maybe in a work setting. Turn a meeting down or a project that you don't have the capacity for, like a simple way. By the 7th day, just say no to something that you usually would say yes to out of guilt. A family favor, a quick client ask, that thing you always like agree to, even though it leaves you exhausted. And so as you go through that, like, you're going to notice some crazy things start to happen. So let's give you some framework, like the no without, framework sort of idea. You're going to follow these rules as you do that. Rule 1 is like, there's no explanation. There's no need to justify what you're declining. Hey, I can't make that meeting. I can't make that meeting because I have this other thing and my kids are sick and I'm honestly, it's like, no, hey, I can't make the meeting. Rule 2 is like, there's no apology. Don't apologize for your boundaries. Hey, I'm not available for that. Not like, hey, I'm sorry and I feel terrible and I wish that, I could just, but I can't. Nope, just, hey, I'm not available. Rule 3, do not over justify. Don't pile reasons on top. Like, just say it once and stop. And then rule 4 is like, offer alternatives only if you want to. Hey, I can't do that Thursday, but I'm free Monday. Only if you genuinely want to help, not as a guilt, like, some sort of guilt-driven compensation. Each time you do it, just keep it clean. I'm not available for that. Doesn't work for me. I can't take that right now. Nope, that's it. Like, once again, no because, like, no 10-minute explanation, just the truth of what it is. And then what you want to do is track what happens. After each no, jot down, like, what you declined. What were you afraid would happen? What actually happened? And then how did you feel after you were able to take that? Like, there's this fear of rejection, but the person, said, no worries when I said that. Wow, that's crazy. You feared your boss would, think less of you, but they said like, hey, thanks for letting me know. You feared losing a connection. Instead, you gained their respect. Once again, keep that as proof of evidence of like fear lying to you to try to protect you. And then there's this idea of like an escalation strategy. As the week progresses, deliberately choose harder no's. Like, once again, say no to the friend's favor request, decline those individual things. Like, well, here's the thing. All of these, as you start to ramp it up week by week, you're proving to yourself, like, across all sorts of like contexts, that boundaries aren't destroying your relationships. They make them more authentic. People, they do respect clear no's, over resentful yeses. And then once again, you expect guilt, and then like write it out. Like, the wave of guilt that's going to hit you, normally like old conditioning pulls you back from like into this people pleasing. And when it shows up, like, hey, this guilt doesn't mean I did something wrong. It just means that I'm doing something new. Just reframe it. You can't, like, man, you can feel guilty and still hold your boundary. Like, that guilt will fade over time. The peace is going to last well beyond that. So boundaries, like, they aren't walls. They're doors that you decide what energy gets to go through. The no practice, like, the sort of idea, like, through actual real life reps, like, that's what's going to start making this thing way more sustainable. Every no that you say is really a yes to something that matters more to you. Your peace, your presence, your purpose, the things you value. And we're going to talk a lot about that next. So as we move into the fourth and final principle, it's like, how much energy, like, are you spending when you're saying the yeses? So let's stop spending energy on what doesn't matter and start living with what you actually say that you value. So this principle is the value alignment reset. And most of us, like, we waive certain things, like, we waive certain things that we value a lot because we're trying to please other people. We say we actually value those things a ton, but our calendars will tell a totally different story. We say like family comes first, but 80% of our life is, or of our calendar is spent chasing the work shoulds, right? We talk about health or creativity being priorities, but they constantly lose to the urgent stuff that doesn't actually move the needle forward. There's that gap between what you say you value and how you actually spend your time. That's where burnout and guilt and resentment live. So this sort of a value alignment reset helps you to see like exactly where your energy is leaking out into these low value obligations and show you how to realign it, not by trying to be perfect in that sort of place, but just by getting honest about where your time is going, so that you can reposition it as you need to. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to list out your top 10 values that matter to you, like that truly matter to you, and not the ones that you think sound good, that look good on paper, but like the actual stuff, the ones that actually matter to you. If everything else was stripped away, would it still have meaning to you? Maybe it's family, health, creativity, or growth, or service, or adventure, or faith, like whatever. Get 10 of them on paper and then rank them, number 1 through number 10. This is the most important. This is the least important. And the top 3, like, those are the ones that get your like protected time. Everything else is a bonus. And that's going to sting a little because like you're going to realize that some things that you've been giving huge energy to don't actually belong in your top 5, and that's okay, because that's where clarity starts. So like now let's compare this to our calendars. If you pull up your calendar or your planner, like from the last month and look at how you actually spent your time and be brutally honest here, where's your energy going? Put a label next to major blocks of time, or tasks where your value, your purpose, like your those sort of things were served. If you add it up, what percentage of your week went to your top 3 values? And most people discover that 60 to 80% of their time goes to the things that they rank near the bottom of that list, or maybe don't even make their values list. That's misalignment in really black and white. And then you start to identify like the contamination from the shoulds. If you look at everything, all these lower ranked values on that list, and be like, hey, am I doing this because I'm choosing to, or because I feel I should? Am I on this committee because I should give back, or I want to give back? I'm choosing it. Like, am I at this event because I should not? Like, am I maintaining this friendship because I should keep whatever? Like, circle the ones that exist only because of obligation. Like, those are energy leaks. And then this is where the realignment happens. You look at each of your top 3 values. What would it look like if I actually lived for what mattered most? Think to yourself, like, what do I need to release or renegotiate to make space for it? What small specific actions could I take to reflect that? And as you start to do that, start to pay attention to what shifts. Within your family, maybe dinner time, you say, you protect your dinner time. You say no to a committee. You add 1 monthly adventure you're going to do. For your health, maybe you trade 20 minutes of scrolling for movement. Maybe you prep your food for the week. Maybe if you value meaningful work, you block out like creative focus time. You drop that one draining project. Once again, it's not about doing anything less. It's just about working more aligned. And then review it monthly. How much of your time is spent towards the top values? Celebrate progress. Don't chase the perfection. Like maybe 1 month it's 45% of it's towards the top values. Maybe by month 3 it's 70%. Whatever. Like it's not just numbers. It's your life coming back into alignment. Fulfillment isn't hiding some easier version of life. It's found when you just align yourself with your gifts, your superpowers, your values, your purpose, and start walking that path. So this exhaustion that you're feeling, it doesn't come from doing too much. It's from doing too much of what doesn't matter. When your time finally matches your values, you're going to feel more alive, even if nothing else like circumstantially changes for you. But you now have the power to live in alignment instead of out of obligation. And so here's the truth. Like when you give from obligation, like you're giving less of your true authentic self, of your gifts, your superpowers, than if you were to start giving with intention. The heaviest like shoulds you're carrying, most of them were never yours to begin with. And boundaries, man, they don't block love or generosity. They actually protect it. And so this is where I want you to pick one thing this week. Maybe you go do the should audit. Maybe it's changing things from the should to I choose to shift. Maybe it's the no practice, whatever it is, like whatever that thing needs to look like. Maybe you need to do a alignment reset. Just start somewhere. Start doing something today because you don't need to become selfish. Like you just need to stop performing who you think you're supposed to be and start being who you already are, because you are the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences. And there are people out there waiting for you to realize that, because you are the only person who can make the unique, specific impact in their lives that they need right now. And so the more that you start to realize that and show up authentically, intentionally from who you are, using your gifts and superpowers, man, you're going to be changing people's lives like crazy, which will bring so much more joy and fulfillment, and the universe will always repay you because of that. Now, if that hits home for you and you want to dive deeper, then that's where you want to get a copy of the GIVER method. Like I said, the link is in the description. You can pause the video, go to Amazon, look up the GIVER method by Jake Talbert, get yourself a copy, get someone you know a copy. It will change your life. You could have a totally different, you could be changed by the end of the year and have one of the best years in 2026 possible. You can go to thegivermethod.com, learn more about all the different things that we do, take our assessments, get some of the free resources. Like I said, the GIVER method is a framework that shows you how to move from obligation to really authentic contribution. Now, if you want one-on-one coaching, someone to guide you who walks the path similar to you, then check out the one-on-one coaching link down below. I've got a few spots where we help get you really clear on what your unique strengths are and how to use them with more purpose. And then if you lead a team, you have an event, a stage, a podcast, whatever, a community that this message would give value to, then check out the link below that talks about speaking and podcasting. Let's talk about what it would look like to bring it to them. And of course, do all the YouTube things. Let's like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and leave a comment what resonated for you, because I love to hear what should are you ready to release from now? But here's what I want you to remember as we wrap up. Like, you give best when you give from wholeness and authenticity, not depletion. From purpose, not guilt. From the choice, not the should. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't offer your best gifts when you're buried under everyone else's expectations or those ghost expectations. When you align your time and energy with your true values, everything changes. You're not giving less, you're giving better. You're giving from overflow instead of exhaustion. From truth and authenticity instead of performance. And the people who matter most to you, they don't want the perfect performance. They want the presence, the real version of you. They can feel the difference when you give from love versus guilt. So stop this should world. Stop shoulding all over yourself. Stop trying to earn worth you already have. And you've always been enough. You just need to realize that. You need to stop measuring yourself with someone else's ruler and start living under your own values. That shift doesn't happen through some big life overhaul. It happens the small decisions you make one step at a time, catching it and reframing it, the should catch, creating boundaries that are honored, reclaiming your, from obligation to more purpose. Do that long enough, and one day you're going to look up and realize that you're not trapped in this should storm anymore. You're finally living by your own compass, giving from your gifts and superpowers, contributing with more intentionality, and being fully unapologetically you, which is what the world needs. And so with that, I will just tell you to have a great rest of your day. Feel free to check out the other videos on our channel, and hopefully we will catch you in our next video. Have a good one.